Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be in this global village. This is your host, Dr. FM here, Dr. Francis Munangi Mpindu, live on Love Bay Afrobeat Music and Talk Radio, your number one African Caribbean online radio station. Our studios are in Toronto, and we are delighted that Mr. TYB, our chief engineer, and his significant better other, they have created this wonderful platform for us to be able to invite guests and have conversations pertaining to matters on Africa so that we inform one another, we dialogue, we educate each other, and also just to be together. So this is live on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, Instagram, and of course, StreamYard. So we are delighted that you have made time to be with us today. And I hope that you have taken some time to subscribe. If you haven't done that yet, please subscribe, like the channel, and pass it on to others so that other people get to know what happens every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Today's Africa. And I'm just so delighted that today is another special day. This is the day the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. We don't apologize for starting out this way. I know. This is not a religious show. It's not a religious program, but we do acknowledge the fact that life is a gift from God, and we don't take that for granted at all. So we are very intentional about recognizing our dependence on God and just being thankful. So today we're talking about the place and value of private elementary education. And it is quite clear that private schools bring in elements or aspects of education which the government needs someone to complement them. So we're going to be looking into what are those elements that bring in the elements that come from private schools. What are their challenges? How can parents and well-wishers support what is happening? What are some of the visions of these private schools? And so today we are delighted that we are joined by Pastor Godfrey Makwara. I'm told that people in his part of the world, they couldn't call him with his full name, which is Makwara Wanda. So they just went with Makwara, which is fine. But he's joining us all the way from South Africa. Pastor Makwara, we're delighted that you have joined us today in Today's Africa, and we're looking forward to having this great conversation with you. Pastor Makwara is someone that I have known for quite some time, but over the last little while, we kind of lost touch, and then I discovered some of the things he's doing in South Africa, and I just felt that this is the kind of brother we need to bring into the studio to have a conversation with, to learn from him and see what are some of the things that he is doing. He's a business owner, and he also owns and runs two schools. Now, not just one, but two schools. That sounds like a hands full. So, Pastor Makwara, I know that we have a lot of things to talk about today, but I should qualify this and tell you that we should have a part B. This is even before we get started, because there's so much we're going to be talking about. We definitely need a lot more time than what we have today. But thank you so much for joining us today. And again, to our viewers, our listeners around the world, we go live in over 100 different countries on Today's Africa, on Love Bay Afrobeat Music and Talk Radio, which is your number one Caribbean African online radio. And so we're delighted to have you in the studio with us. So please tell us, how did this vision start? Where did you get this idea? I mean, I'm looking at you, you look like someone who is much younger than I am. Where did you pick up this vision? How did you get to this? And then we'll talk about some of the things that are happening in the schools, the families you serve, the children you serve. So how did this come about? Are you muted? I can't hear you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Are you hearing me now?
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. I'm privileged to be talking to you, Dr. FM. I looked into what you're doing. I watched your shows. I was so much humbled by the sacrifice and commitment that you have and all the things that you're doing to the world. And I really humble myself, and I'm so honored to be talking to you today and to the rest of the world.
You are very generous. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, when I grew up and went for training, I never thought that I will end up doing schools. That was not one of my plans, according to my educational plans and my educational endeavors. I was thinking that I will major in engineering, in law, and other areas, business and stuff like that, because those areas we are all expected to be that professional and do a specific profession where you excel and lead your private life. Everybody wants that. That's what I thought. And I really felt that was my area of specialization. But after many years, I realized that we as Africans, we were a little bit negligent on very important issues about children who are homeless, who are roaming the streets. Are you hearing me, Dr. FM?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. So I realize that most professionals, they want to be in their comfort zone. They want to work for their families, work for themselves, do their own things without having a group of young kids following them, some responsibilities to take over a group of young children. So there were children who were homeless, who were destitute, some kids that were coming from underprivileged families, orphans. These kids actually, you know, most people say, no, the government should look after these, some NGOs, someone should look after these children. So when I saw that, I felt I should be responsible. As an elite African, I should be responsible and take a step of correcting that error. So I took all the kids. It's not because I had amassed some money, I accumulated some money that I said, okay, this is the money that I want to start a project about taking care of kids. I took an initiative. I took the kids into my house and I started to feed them and to home teach them. So it's an issue that came out of a burden and a responsibility of an African son who felt like I had something to do to address the issue of the destitutes and the underprivileged children. That's what prompted me, Doctor.
Wow, this is really encouraging to hear how from just within your own heart, looking outside, you felt you needed to respond. And I think what I heard was you were not expecting someone else to pick up what needed to be picked up, but you're like, what can I do? Which reminds me of one of the powerful statements one of the presidents of the United States mentioned years back. I can't even tell you who it was, but I remember those words. They said, we should not ask questions like, what can my country do for me, but what can I do for my country? And I think you have expressed that very, very clearly, and that's very, very encouraging. And again, I see someone here saying that blessed be God, and thank you, Dr. Mpindu, for hosting my good friend in the Lord, the president of Empowering the Lions of Africa. This is Captive Cap. It's Pastor Sipo Sivia, all the way from South Africa. Thank you very much, Pastor Sivia, for your generous comment there. It's good to have you on the program. So you're talking about reaching out to underprivileged young people, underprivileged children. Not long ago, we actually had a program where we were looking at how oftentimes in our developments, even in Africa and around the world, the children get neglected. We focus so much on businesses and doing this and doing that, but usually we are not paying close attention to what is happening with our children. And so I'm very, very encouraged to see that you are one of those people who has actually answered the call. Now, tell us a little bit about these children that you now have in your school, and tell us what is happening in your school, in the two schools. Now, are these two schools close to each other, or they are different, like in different parts?
Okay. Yeah, these schools are in different areas. Of course, currently we have two schools in the same province, but not in the same area. We have one school in Brits, a small town between Johannesburg and Pretoria. It's an agricultural small farming area in the northwest. So we realized that there is a place called Okasi, where we can say it's an underprivileged location where people focus much on putting food on the table. Everything they get is hand to mouth, and getting a child to a normal school is a challenge. Getting them food to eat, clothes to put on is a challenge. So one of these schools is there in the Okasi. The other one is in Rustenburg. Rustenburg is one of the cities in the northwest of South Africa, and it's in a platinum area. And we have another school there also in another informal area. So we have two schools in those two parts of the northwest. Yeah.
It is encouraging to see how you have responded, and I can see how the two schools would operate differently because of their own contexts. So I would take it that the one in Rustenburg, it's more of the, in the city, different facilities and different kinds of children that you would have in the classrooms. Now, the other one, you're talking about a community where there are challenges in terms of even children getting to school. So I can only imagine how, from where I stand, I'm thinking, here's someone who is getting his hands dirty, and you're not trying to make money. That's not your primary focus. You're actually giving to the people. It's like you're giving back to the community. Now, how big are these schools? Looks like our brother froze for a little bit here. Those of you who just joined us, we are live here on Afrobeat, Love Bay Afrobeat Music and Talk Radio. We are talking with Pastor Godfrey Makwara, who is a business owner. He has his own business on the side, but he also owns and runs two schools in South Africa, private schools. So our topic for today is the place and value of private elementary education. And actually, I was really fascinated to see that they actually have an association of different schools in South Africa that are private. I found that there were 754. Now, I just said associations of various private schools in South Africa, and it came up with 754. I mean, that signals that private schools are doing some things that really complement what the government is doing, and also doing things that the government is not able to do. Some of the reviews were, very impressive kids and impressive teachers. In one of the schools, it says, I love how the teachers integrate play-based learning into their teaching. In one of the schools said, the philosophy they follow is just amazing for the kids. In one of the other private schools, it says, lovely teachers, excellent education, kids are thriving. One of the schools is it's called Little Oaks and Oaks Private Academy. It says wonderful group of teachers and management staff. So I mean, we could go on and on and on and on. There are so many reviews and comments from parents and people who participate in these private schools who are just acknowledging the fact that private schools are meeting some needs that are really unique. And Pastor Makwara was off for a little bit there, but now he's back in the studio. Pastor Makwara, I was just highlighting some of the comments we're hearing from people about private schools. I noticed that there is some association that registered 754 private schools. These are elementary schools in South Africa. So I don't know how comprehensive that is, whether every school that is introduced or established is actually registered with this organization so that they know who is who. Maybe that's something you could let us in on that as well, so that we know. Now, how are these private schools? Do you belong to an association as a private school? Do you work independently? Like what? Yes, obviously you would work independently, but is there some kind of an overall body that would even inspect the schools to see what is happening? Like just in terms of accountability, would you fill us in on that?
Oh, thank you very much, Doctor. Are you hearing me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry that I was off a little bit. Technology sometimes is not very favorable, but it's fine.
That's true.
Okay. Definitely, yes. We have another project called Open Schools Worldwide. Open Schools Worldwide. It's a project that works with private schools. Normally, they come and supervise, check how you're doing it, and your challenges. They provide literature. They come with a standard that should be followed, and also we link with other private schools around the globe, around the city, around the country, around the province. So we link and we sort of like do something that is coming from a coordinated center where we become accountable and see to it that we have a standard that we all follow. So
that is very encouraging. That's very encouraging to know, because I think there were some people who were concerned and just saying, these private schools, who are they accountable to? Do we really know what is going on? But you're saying that there's this Open Schools Worldwide Association where there is that accountability, and it's I think you as a leader, you understand the importance of accountability. I mean, for you to be accountable, you have to be held accountable by someone, and yes, for you to hold someone accountable, there has to be that kind of a matrix just in terms of connection. So thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, we appreciate knowing some of those. Now, in terms of parents involvement, I know that with your two schools, I'd asked the question, like, how big would be the schools that you have, and what would be the level of participation from parents? Obviously, it will be different from the one in the city, the one that's kind of in the semi-rural or in between Pretoria and Johannesburg, because the parents, I mean, if the kids have a hard time getting to school, I can only imagine if the parents would even be in a position to come to meetings, to participate and all that. So I'm sure that would be some of your challenges then.
Definitely, Dr. FM. Actually, when we grew up, we realized that parents would come to meetings. The school would call parents to come and attend some meetings formally, and they will discuss with the teachers, with the school authorities, what is needed, their challenges and stuff like that. That's what we knew when we grew up. But unfortunately, in this setup, getting a parent to come to the school, even to check the books of the child, is a challenge. It's not like they don't want. Maybe the parent is working there in the farm, is trying to make ends meet, and gathering them to be able to know what the child is going through or what the school is doing becomes a challenge. So what we normally do, we play a role of becoming a parent and becoming a teacher, which means we represent the parent during their absence. When they are not there, we take certain decisions that we know they are proper for the child to be up under those circumstances. Let's say we need to bring a certain subject to a certain class, and another child doesn't like that, but we know it's necessary for that child to go through that. We make a decision, and we get that child trained the way we feel should make that child a better person in the future. Feeding, we also take an initiative of feeding the kids, because if we say, bring your parents, we want to talk to them about you being hungry and stuff like that, the parent will never come. Some of them are shy. Some of them, they don't have the time. Some of them, they don't know the importance of going to represent your child at school. So in a way, there are some things that are not very formal in private schools. In the private schools that we have, if I say private schools in general, other private schools are different from what we're doing. So it's like we parents at school. And the name of our school is called Africa Combined Home Study Center. Why Africa Combined Home Study Center? South Africa has become like a cosmopolitan country, a cosmopolitan city. Like Johannesburg, you find everyone coming there from Mozambique, from Lesotho, from Tanzania, from Swaziland, they all come there. So we call it Africa Combined Home Study Center. We are home. At home, you get the parental care, the parental love that a child might not be having at home. So besides being a school, it's a home and it's a hospital. There are times that we take care of kids that are not feeling well. We call a medical specialist to take care of them. So it's a home. So normally when we do that, the parent will never come and say, why did you treat my child? Why did you take my child for treatment? Because they know that we are taking the role of a parent away from the school. So that's some of the things that are a little bit different from the private schools that you know.
This is very educational. Yeah, this is amazing. Just to hear. I mean, I like the concept of teachers acting as parents, especially in the other school where you are dealing with a different population, where the parents would probably be out in the farms working. So there's no way they would even be able to come to the school for meetings during the day, and you have to approach it differently, which really raises or answers part of my question, which was going to be, what are the uniqueness? What is the uniqueness of this school? What is the uniqueness of this Africa Combined Home Study Center? I mean, it's wonderful to hear you talk about this, because I'm as an African myself, and of course riding on the most powerful words from my namesake, Dr. Francis Kwame Nkrumah, who says, "I am African, not because I was born in Africa, but because Africa was born in me." And you were saying there's an Africanism, there's a Pan-Africanism, sustaining system here, where you're saying South Africa has become a hub where people from right across the continent end up in South Africa. And now you are catering to these children coming from all over. This is this is cutting edge kind of work, and it's very, very encouraging to see that these are some of the things you're doing. Now, what are some of the other uniqueness of your school?
Thank you very much, Doctor. One of the things that is completely different from any other school you can think of is that we are teaching and taking responsibility as African mature elite people to restore the dignity of an African child. And it's a holistic approach where we become responsible not because we want to be seen, not because we want to show off, but because we as Africans, we can play a part in our beautiful continent. Like what you said, the other uniqueness is that we are not segregating anybody. We don't segregate any child based on their ethnic or cultural background. We don't segregate them. When they come to our school, they are home. In other words, you are saying we don't remind them where they're coming from. We have got Tswana teachers, we have got Zulu teachers, we have got Shona teachers. We take a teacher from every background so that it can be very much conducive. We wanted to create a conducive environment where kids feel safe in the hands of the people they know. And the other school, like the one that is in Rustenburg, like what you said, is slightly different from the one in Brest, in the sense that Rustenburg is a platinum city. And some parents are accountable and responsible. But still you find one or two kids needing our attention. And we still apply the same principle that we apply from the other school. But the percentage of kids that are in a desperate situation is a little bit reasonable. But the Africanism, the love, the care, the passion to make these kids feel loved is the same spirit. We imparted the same spirit in Rustenburg school, the same spirit that we imparted in Brett's school. So once you go there, you see the same flavor. And you, without being told that this project is run by the same people, you can feel we pray, we don't swear, we teach them not to swear, we teach them not to fight. There's one thing that is happening in South Africa that don't happen in our schools, of fighting, killing, swearing, and doing certain things that a child should not do. So we teach them that, no, you don't swear, you don't fight. We talk, we discuss, we negotiate, we say sorry. We're trying to make these kids know that they are Africans and they need to love one another. So we are preaching the message of love to these two schools. That's one important thing.
That is encouraging to hear as well. I mean, we know it's been really, really sad over the last few years to see expressions of xenophobia in South Africa, and especially when we think of here's a nation that benefited a lot from many other African nations in terms of its liberation. And now, I guess this is what happens, Pastor Makwara, when we don't have skills and ability to do something, we kind of flap our wings and try to fly and see how far we can fly. We just do the best we can, given what we know. But you're talking about giving life skills to these children, being concerned about their behavior, being concerned about their lifestyle, making sure that, you are speaking positively, you're communicating, you're not fighting. I was talking to my significant other, and I said, when you run out of words and you fail to communicate effectively, then you use aggression, hoping that you will be heard and that you're intimidating the other person. And that does not help. That does not help, because we deal with families where, husbands and wife actually they have fist fights, or they push each other out of the way. I mean, come on, you're saying, let's talk. Let's talk. But this is what happens when people don't have skills. And it's really encouraging to hear that you are starting early with these children to teach them life skills and to embrace them. I'm glad you talked about holistic approaches, and that is wonderful. You're talking about including the spiritual aspects. You're talking about prayer. You're talking about academics and all this within a safe environment. Now, is this something that you started with right at the very beginning, or is this something you sort of evolved into over the last little while?
Definitely, Dr. FM, what happened is when I ventured into this project, I ventured it out of passion. My passion was to do something different that never existed. And the flavor that I wanted to be felt or to be seen was that we want to be part of this because it's different. We wanted to be different in the area of love, in the area of caring. So gradually, certain things came into my spirit. I started out of passion, but I had to implement certain ingredients, like the issue of identifying talent and encouraging loudly and rebuking quietly. This is something that has destroyed our kids in Africa. When a kid does something wrong, we shout it on the top of the mountain and tell them that they are useless, they can't amass to anything. This is how an African child was raised in. And you find that a child is not having confidence. So we learned this project of gathering them every day, telling them how great, how powerful, how nice, and how beautiful they are. Now, it was now a progressive implementation. I didn't start with everything that I have now, but it was so progressive to a point whereby now today I was talking with one of my teachers and one of my partners, and I said, are you aware that these kids are our congregation? That's our congregation. Very powerful congregation.
That's
Imagine
a powerful way.
if
That's
that
a powerful
congregation,
way of looking at this. This is powerful.
yes. We pray in the morning and they pray for us every day. They say, thank you, Lord, for the day. Bless my teacher, bless my mom, bless my parents, and bless me too in the name of Jesus. Which means these kids are praying for us every day. This is our congregation interceding for us, and we do what we do to them, and they do what they do to us, which means we are raising a congregation, which will be very powerful in a very queer and awkward place, awkward environment. But in that awkwardness, we are creating a conducive environment where they can be able to learn something. So that's the congregation that we're raising.
I really
I
like
know
that
in private school,
perspective. Yeah.
I know in most private schools they say don't introduce your religion to our children, which is true, is a right. But besides introducing a religion, we introduce the language of love, which everybody responds to. So when we pray and love these kids and do good, we are introducing something that the world will never deny. So, like what you asked, Doctor, when you said, did you start like this? No, I didn't start like that. But the learning is progressive. The implementation is progressive. I think in 2-3 years time, 3 or 4 years down the road, we will be able to to implement certain things that have never been seen in Africa, have never been seen in any private school, but proper and conducive for the kids to do. That's what we feel.
Pastor Makwara, you are a great resource, and I'm just marveling at the wealth of information and experience that you have gathered through the establishment of these two schools, or through establishing of these two schools, and how they have contributed to your own growth, socially, mentally, emotionally, intellectually. And I'm glad to hear you saying, listen, I didn't start like this, but here I am. And then you are even making a reference to greater things coming up in terms of, what's going to happen. Now, we will get to that in a moment. And of course, for those of you who just joined us, we're talking with Pastor Makwara, who is a business owner, and he also owns and runs two schools in South Africa, one in the city in Rustenburg, and the other one, I think you said in the Brits, a place between Pretoria and Johannesburg. And two different schools, but with the same vision. And we're here live on Today's Africa, and this is a wonderful, wonderful conversation we're having with him. Now, it seems to me, from what I'm gathering, I am curious. How does the government look at what you're doing? Does the government of South Africa, the Minister of Education, how do they support the kind of work that you do, given that they understand the kinds of children and families that you're serving? Now, are there expressions of support from the government, and what could those expressions of support from the government be, if there are any?
Okay. Currently, we are connected to the local authorities, like the Madibeng. There's what we call Madibeng local authority. We made them aware of the programs that we're running, the need that is there in as far as books are concerned, and the plans that we have, and the reason, the motive that is behind what we're doing, taking kids from the street. There is this problem of what they call nyaupe, the drugs that most of our young children are getting involved in. And we said we are doing this in order to avoid our kids being abused, being desperate on the streets. And they said, please, we like this. We made ourselves available to quite a number of meetings that they do as local and provincial authorities. And we interact a lot with the Minister of Health, the Minister of Education, and the local authority. And they are saying, please, we are so pleased. And of course, would love at some point for them, if at all, we can get certain curriculums that are conducive to the total building of a child. I know our local government is very helpful and very supportive, but sometimes we need to keep on reminding them what we want to achieve and why we are so important in this part, because the word private and public, they're a little bit different words. Let me define them in the context of school. When you say this is a public school, it means that certain children are allowed in the government schools, and there are certain qualifications, certain expectations, certain criteria that are actually needed or followed or used to determine whether you qualify for the private school or for the government school. Now, private schools become one of the alternative entity. It's an alternative entity, though to other private schools, it comes with a cost. I want you to see the difference and why the government should see us as playing a very big part. Our presence is bridging a gap between the child who can't get to the public school and who can't pay for an expensive private school. So we come as a private school, but taking into consideration the plight of the child, taking into consideration the situation of the child. That's where we are effective. Our strength hangs there. We are saying we are there for the child who can't pay school fees. We still get him to school and teach him. We are there for the child who can't be accepted in the public schools, because there are certain kids who don't have papers, who don't have birth certificates, who don't have any formal document to identify them. We take those kids, whilst they're processing those papers, we create a home for them to learn, to eat, to be clothed, and to feel safe in the hands of our institution. So the government, when the government hears this, they will understand why we exist. If we don't exist, it means that the child is forced to go to a private school that is expensive, and automatically they're turned off. Or they are forced to go to a public school that has got certain conditions and requirements that are so complicated that they end up not being accepted. So you see the trick scenario and why we exist. So we said, no, we need to afford an African child an opportunity to learn to read and write. So that's why we said Africa Combined Home Study Center.
Pastor Makwara, Pastor Makwara, when you mentioned earlier about African Combined Home Study Center, I was like, yeah, that's an interesting, unique name, and I think you explained, and I captured the Pan-Africanism concept within that. But I think what you've just done in the last few minutes there is you have taken me to a higher level in terms of understanding this, because you're saying the government schools, the public schools have expectations and certain things that not everybody is able to get in there because that's who they are. And then you have private schools that have certain expectations, and some kids get in there and others don't. And you are saying you are actually in the middle to welcome those who cannot go here and who cannot go here. And I'm saying to myself, I mean, for you to come up with such an approach, that is unique, my brother. That is unique, and it's powerful. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps, or chicken skin, as some people say, just listening to that, because I am excited that you are responding to real needs, my brother. You and your team, and of course, your spouse. You are meeting needs that would not be met otherwise. And this is wonderful. This is encouraging. And I can only imagine the gratitude in these parents who have to get up early in the morning to go and work on the farms. And the kids have to find their way to school. And the parents don't even know what happens the rest of the day because the parents are busy and the kids are at school, and your teachers become parents. But the parents are so comfortable with your system that they don't have to worry about what's happening there because they know that their kids are in good hands. And this is wonderful, my brother. This is encouraging. I'm so glad that we're having these conversations and you're enlightening us on the realities of the public school, the private schools, and then you're creating another private school in between that really welcomes children from anywhere. You know, those who don't have uniforms, those who don't have food, those who don't have books, those who cannot pay fees, and you're saying children are important. And this is really wonderful. I'm just so delighted that we're having this conversation with you again. This is Love Bay Afrobeat Music and Talk Radio, your number one online African and Caribbean radio. And we are talking with Pastor Makwara here, who is a business owner in South Africa, and he also owns and runs two schools, one in the city and one in the semi rural city area where they cater to children from very underprivileged situations. And so we're talking about the place and value of private elementary education. Now, it is quite true, Pastor Makwarawanda, that some children are not able to go to these private schools because they're very expensive. They are like the cream of the crop. Only certain kids who meet certain qualifications are able to go there. In the government schools, you have to have your papers, you have to have these documentations and so forth to be able to go in. And you're saying, what do we do with those kids who don't have a legal status? Yeah, well, they are there, but they are kids. What can we do in terms of their future? And so you are creating a safe environment for them to learn. And this is really, really wonderful to hear. Now, in terms of some of the challenges, I can only imagine from some of the things you mentioned why running a school or schools like the ones you run really creates a different set of challenges for you, because you're talking about recruiting, you're talking about administration, you're talking about the actual learning of the kids, the curriculum, you're talking about school supplies. I mean, those are real challenges. So where do you find help? Or do you receive any kind of help at all?
Yes, thank you very much, Doctor. Before I answer that quickly, I want to tell you something. I use a philosophy that says, if not me, who? If not now, when? Right. Out of that motto, me and my son, we are into business. My firstborn son, we started a construction business. I'm coming from an engineering background where construction, welding, fitting, turning, quite a number of technical skills that I trained. We registered a project. We registered a company called El Kanani Construction Company. This project is a building project, a construction project. We do anything to do with construction. And the proceeds of our business, some of the things that we do, the money that we get from our business, we forward it to school projects. Yes, of course, sometimes it's not nice. Maybe the market might be very, very tough. We trust God. But whilst we trust in God, we decided that we should be doing something. We should be proactive. We should get to work, use our hands. It's not like we just wait for a good Samaritan to come from somewhere and feed us. We are very, very hard workers. So my son is in this other side of the province, Northwest Rustenburg. He's staying where our headquarters of our project is. And me, I'm in breaths with the project, to the other school project. But we do projects in the area of construction. That's one thing that we do. If I say we get money from somewhere, I might be lying, but God there and then God provides. God provides. We feed our kids every day. These school children, we feed them every day. We give them uniform. We give them literature. We give them reading material. Our teachers, they're doing well. And I give that glory to God, because God sustains us. But the project that we're doing is construction. So with that project, we're hoping that we can open more construction projects in Africa. Wherever there is a school, there is our project active. Where they need builders, where they need professional constructors, we are there. The school is sustained by our projects. That's how so far.
This is a very powerful way of sustaining the kind of work that you're doing, because I was saying to myself, it is very costly to run a school like the one you just described, the one that is in the farming area or in between farming communities. It is expensive. I mean, there are real needs, and this is a wonderful gift. I mean, I'm like speechless just hearing the kinds of things that you're doing, counting on God to provide you with personnel, to provide you with the children, to provide you with resources in terms of feeding those children, the uniforms and books and the school supplies and other things. And yet you are not relying on one particular individual to say, if we don't get this, then we are not able to do that. But you are saying, as your business grows, you're basically investing back into the community and into the lives of these young people. And I can only imagine the outcomes from this. I mean, you and I and others, we may not be able to see some of the fruits of this, but it's really powerful and encouraging to see how you and your team, you're laying the foundation for these young people, for these children, whom we have no idea what God's plan is for each one of their lives and what they're going to turn into in future. And so you are investing in them, not because you want to get something out of them, but you're saying, I am equipping, I'm investing so that you can become what God wants you to be. And I can't think of any other better way of ministering to our children and creating a better future. Now, this explains why, as our fellow brother, Pastor Sipo Sibia, made reference to empowering the lions of Africa. And by the lions of Africa, I know sometimes, as Africans, when we talk about the lions, I know sometimes we talk about the lions, but then we think of the he lion. But when we talk about lions, we really mean every lion, the big, the old, the male, the female lions of Africa. And I can now see a better picture of these little lions learning skills so that they can survive, and not just survive, but so that they can thrive. And oh my goodness, I'm looking at the time and I'm realizing that an hour is almost over here. Again, today we are talking with Godfrey Makwara, who owns a construction business And he's telling us that it is from the proceeds of those projects that he's able to support and fund the schools that he has established by God's grace. And I can only imagine how families appreciate so much what you do. But then you have other families who don't understand all this. And I'm sure you don't strike me as the kind of a guy who goes around telling people, this is what I do. I bring money from this end and I put it here, and we make money. And you're not that kind of a person. So there are some people who are really just learning this. And this is why I'm so grateful that you have given us time to have this conversation with you. And like I said, we have to have a part B of this, because there's so many. I mean, part B and C and D and E and so forth. we really have to have more conversations with these. And I'm just so grateful that you have made time to be with us today. Now, I know that, like I said, we will bring you back so that we can focus on other aspects of the kind of work that you are doing. But you mentioned that in future there are some things that you would like to do. Would you mind just taking a moment to let us in on some of the things that you are envisioning in terms of these schools? Like what is the next step?
Okay, thank you, Doctor. You said something in advance that I wanted to say about empowering the lions of Africa. That is the ultimate goal. We would like to see these schools in every part of Africa. Currently, we are in South Africa, but our desire is to see these schools existing in every part of Africa, Malawi, Mozambique, Zambia, Lesotho, all other African countries. They need to have these schools. And when we do that, we will be empowering the lions. We are also going to empower the parents. By the grace of God, we look for ways to empower the parents, train the parents, and make them to do projects, and in business, in family, in the religious circles, and in the communities. We would look for ways to empower these lions, because these are great lions. But when they are not empowered, they become toothless and they are not effective. So we would like to see these schools existing in every part of Africa, with the same ingredient, the same flavor, with the same survival technique, where we encourage people to work in order to sustain any project they have put in place. Are you hearing me, Doctor?
Oh, yes, loud and clear. Pastor Makwara, the kind of information you shared with us today, sir, it's it's transformational. It is cutting edge systems that you are employing, and not necessarily technologically, but just from your own thought process. It is encouraging to hear these ideas coming from you, and I can only rejoice in the fact that if we have more and more younger people like yourself, it makes those of us who are older feel that Africa is in good hands. It really is, because when we think of schools like the ones that you have established and what you're doing, it's remarkable, and we thank God for giving you a vision like that, in a vision that emerged from experience and observations. You did not sit in an office in four walls and came up with these ideas. No, you picked this up from seeing and interacting and seeing children and seeing parents needing help, but not knowing how to find that help. And so you have become a good Samaritan, you know, and it is really, really encouraging. Again, I'm just looking at the time and wondering what would be some of your parting thoughts with us today. I know that you know, like I told you, we are live on over 100 different countries, and so this podcast is seen by many people in Africa and in the diaspora. And we are grateful that Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio creates such an opportunity. So, what are some of those things you would like to say to parents or to the government? Because there are some government people who will be accessing this information as well. What would you like the parents to understand? What would you like the government to understand? What would you like us to understand? I know that's a lot, but you are a practitioner, so please give us your closing comments.
Thank you, Doctor. I wanted to say Africa is a great continent. Civilization started in Africa. We are powerful people. Together, we can do it. If you run very fast, you go alone. But if we go together, we go very far. Africa, let us invest in knowledge. Let us invest in our children. Let us invest in the underprivileged, because you never know what you can do if you don't know what you have. And understanding is the ability to sit under someone and look up to them. So let us understand each other. Thank you very much, Africa. Let's continue to locate people in dark corners who are underprivileged and help them. And through God's grace, we'll be able to help them. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. What a privilege it has been having this conversation with you today. And again, our Love Bay family, thank you for being with us today on Love Bay Afrobeat Music and Talk Radio. Here on Today's Africa with your host, Dr. FM, Dr. Francis Munangi Mpindu. And we are live every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are live on YouTube, on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and of course, StreamYard. And we are delighted that we have had this privilege of talking with a practitioner, someone who has established schools just from looking at the needs and responding to the needs, and not hoping that someone will meet that need, but stepping into the gap to actually get his hands dirty and doing that. So we've been talking about the place and value of private elementary education. And our brother, Pastor Makwara, is situated in South Africa. And some great work is happening there. And it's been an honor and a privilege to have him on the show. So again, thank you, our viewers, for being with us today. Let's keep on keeping on doing the right things. And we look forward to being together again next week, God willing. Next week, all goes well, we are going to be connecting with someone connected to Sudan. We want to understand what's happening in Sudan. Many of us as Africans are interested in knowing what is happening in South Sudan in particular. And we're looking forward to having a guest connected to that part of the world in our studio. And again, thank you for being with us. We hope that you will subscribe and like Love Bay Afrobeat Music and Talk Radio, your #1 African and Caribbean online radio, so that other people will get to know that. So I just want to remind you again, on the hour, right on the hour, coming up is the Caribbean Flavor with Mr. Marcus and Miss Jen to Blue. You don't want to miss that. So again, thank you for being with us today. As our brother said, let's understand one another. Let's work on understanding one another so that we build a better Africa. So again, have a great weekend. Thank you very much. God bless.